after his fall, man was not abandoned by God. The fall essentially came down to two elements: listening to the wrong advice and independence in the will, linked with the temptation by you-know-who to have equality with God, precisely what he had done before we came on the circuit. The original fall, he wanted to own and reign. And we know the reaction, quis ut Deus, who is like God? Our fall was very similar, and he was the instrument. So we have what is classically referred to as the proto-evangelium, this passage in the book of Genesis, the first gospel, in which there is this veiled promise. She, this mysterious she, will crush your head. The most weak part is the heel, and yet it will. And when we see Our Lady as the Immaculate Conception, we always see underneath the serpent being trodden upon. As also in images of St. Michael, look down and what do you see? Someone who had been a glorious angel, now reduced to someone small in stature and not so good looking. Crushed by St. Michael, who at that point was given greater power. He was not the most brilliant, remember, Lucifer was. That's how he fell. And it can also tempt us. The more we have with regard to gifts, you know that pride feeds on good things. It's not like the other vices, it's very subtle. So it tempts also those who are really striving in God. So we have this first announcement. Christian tradition has seen a parallel. Adam is linked with Adamach, which means the red earth, and Adam is taken from it, it means man, generically, as well as this name given to Adam. And he's seen precisely in juxtaposition to the second Adam, as is Mary, in juxtaposition with the first Eve, the second Eve. We have, as you know, a play on that in the hymn Ave Maris Stella. There's a verse which plays on Eva, reversing it to Ave, what we have just heard in today's Gospel. Why is our Blessed Lady regarded as the second Eve? It took many centuries to understand how one who, because woman, and therefore also one of us, and therefore in need of redemption, was not at some point, at some early point, contaminated. Many authors dwelt on what we have in this gospel, which comes through to us as gratia plena, ave gratia plena, hail full of grace. Pulling out of that, what means this being full of grace? It's puzzling, but in itself it's insufficient, because in that phrase we don't have the words of the angel as such. It's two removes down the line. It's Latin, trying to translate one word in Greek, favored one. The word favor or grace is there, charis, and it becomes kecharitomeni, favored woman. And that itself is trying to render what? what the angel said. What language was Gabriel speaking? Some say he would have spoken Aramaic, the spoken language of the area. Well, I think not. Given his role, who was he? One of the brightest of all, with the brightest of all messages. You know what angel means? It means messenger, malach. And therefore he was bringing this message from God the Father, from the depths of eternity, to redeem man and put time back. What language would he have used? I think he would have used the High Hebrew of the synagogue, which Our Lady would have understood. And therefore, he used probably this. Shalom, the first word of the gospel, which also is its conclusion. Remember what the Lord said when he came through the wall after conquering time and eternity? Shalom Alechem, peace to you, which we will hear in a minute also just before Holy Communion. In Hebrew, it would be very simple. It would be Shalom Ishach Hanam. Hail, or rather, peace, woman of grace, woman of favor. That's all it could be, because Hebrew is very simple. So, what is this woman of grace? The one precisely that Lucifer couldn't bear. Why? He had been the most brilliant of creatures. And it would seem that part of his original test, because they weren't given fully that beatific vision, the angels, at the first point, they had to pass some test, was that they were shown the incarnation, and it would seem also a woman, through which it would happen. Non serviam, I will not serve, echoed through the courts of heaven. And he was pulling all the others after him. A colossal battle, we're told, took place. And Michael was given power. And 2/3 were spared. But this other lot, they hate us. Anyone who can get their place with a perfect hate. I was hearing an echo of a holy priest just this last week. When he gives a retreat, he doesn't change his timetable. He gets up every night around 1 to pray in the night. And they noticed that when he gave a retreat, those who looked after the bed found that the bed was never slept in. Even if he was 11 o'clock going to sleep, he would get up still at 1 o'clock. They think that he slept on the floor. And he muttered one day, "Satan never sleeps. Why should I?" And we sleep each time we passively twiddle a knob and take in his fumes through a screen. It took the best part of 450 years to work out what happened at the moment in which she said fiat. What happened? It's extremely difficult. We have fully man and fully God. At one point in history, very early on, just after Constantine had made legal Christianity, which was 313, he saw that this new religion already had an internal problem. They couldn't decide amongst themselves which form was the true one. Arius, a priest of Alexandria, was proclaiming that there was a time in which Christ was not, the Word was not. Based on the kind of passage we've had in the first reading, where it says that God created wisdom from the beginning, but the word created is there. Do you see the problem? It was thrashed out initially by the council that he brought together in an important spot of the Eastern Empire, Nicaea, place of victory. We know that the saint feasted just 2 days ago. Nicholas of Myra, in Turkey, in Nisha, was there, His signature is there as number 151 on the list of bishops. We know also that he, amongst others, saw clearly the danger. And when Arius was given permission to speak, the scenario went something like this, we are given to understand from local tradition, and there's no smoke without fire, it's probably true. He couldn't take it anymore, and under his long beard he started to simmer, to grunt, and when Arius got to one word, he got up, went up to him, and with great accuracy of theology, thumped him on the nose and sat down. The point was got across. It's the holy punch of St. Nicholas, which people forget at Christmas time. He was a great warrior, not at all a sugary character. And by the way, do you know that he, after dying, started his real miracles in history? Oil came from his body. When the Sultan conquered the area, his body was at risk, and he appeared, it seems, to some people in the south of Italy, rescue me. They went and took his body and put it where it is now in Bari. And what was their delight when the oil started to ooze again, and still does miracles to this time. This, by the way, is Svinta Klaus, not Santi, a real man who was keen on helping the poor and anonymously gave them when they were really in need. We don't have a right over a Christmas present. A gift by its nature is gratuitous and free. To grumble at a gift or to expect it is to misunderstand its nature, as indeed is the whole of life. We can never say it's not fair. We have no right. Indeed, this day reminds us that one woman, the humblest of all, the one least expecting it, how can this be, was the one and only one who was worthy to make possible precisely the holding of eternity in time, the perfect tabernacle. And by the way, she asks us humbly on this day, do the same when you have the privilege of receiving my Son also into your body.
Did once those little feet walk, run, play, dance from street to street in that embalmed promised land, where earth and heaven walked hand in hand, and in that tiny infant breast that ages would one day call blessed, beat, palpitate at childhood's joys, and fondly hug its simple toys. Did that dark hair blow in the breeze beside those Galilean seas, and in that tender full-bloomed rose now what each growing maiden knows, and was the eternal song of youth heard in that gentle, gentle mouth? And couldst thou know what waited thee, locked womb of locked virginity? And did she know a harder time? Did that rose droop neath fiercer clime? And in the depth of that deep heart one day cry out, torn, ripped apart? And didst thou, Mary, hear thy Son say, woman, and cry out, 'tis done? Sweet breast, wast healed or rent anew, as who had milked thee smaller grew. And Martha, where dost thou lie now? What secrets doth that breast now know? And is it true, as these men say, that thou didst leave us on this day, not as a common child of Eve, that gasping doth one last breath heave, but as a queen with seraph train, that little feet for aeons reign?